I'm Inside, and I saw the Twilight Zone Season 2, Episode 24, The Rip Van Winkle Caper. It is directed by Justice Addis, written by Rod Serling. If you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode follows 4 men who stole a bunch of gold. They stole about $1 million worth of gold, and then they retreat to Death Valley. There's this little cave area with 4 what seemingly looks like those cases from Snow White. You know the clear cases I'm talking about? The one that she slept in? Yeah, there's 4 of those. Their plan? To stay asleep for 100 years. And so they do that. I like the introduction of all the characters. We got a guy who's a little bit greedy. We got a scientist man who knows all the gas stuff. We got a guy who knows mechanics, and then we got another guy. Forgot what he does. But these men, they're qualified to do the job. And the job to steal $1 million worth of gold and then go to sleep for 100 years and then wake up 100 years later, that is what they do. One of the guys, his case gets rocked, smashed, and he just has a bunch of bones there. So he died in his sleep. That's the guy that I don't remember what he did, because he was just gonna get killed off anyway, I assumed. Who cares what he did? And now we have 3. I like this. They're 100 years in the future. They're in 2061. Right now, it's 2025. How many years is that? That's so many years away. But I'll still be alive, hopefully. I can already tell their plan is not gonna work. Should have invested in some crypto in 1961. We got a car, we got 3 men, they all go vroom, they take a rest, they have a water barrel they're gonna go get, and the guy the greedy guy decides to run that guy over and take his gold. And of course, now the car is destroyed. I'm like, man, why would you do that? Just take the water barrel. Water's more valuable than gold. Gold is just a concept. It's a mineral extracted from the ground that humans can use for currency because it's rare, and now electronics because it's in everything, everywhere. All the electronics use gold and silicone. So of course they now have no water. They have a bunch of gold, which is super heavy, and now they have to walk in the middle of the heat in Death Valley, by the way. This is a very hot place. It's 70 degrees in January. I think the max it goes is like 120, 130. Just extremely hot. You're cooking. I don't know what time of the year that they decided to do this experiment. I hope it was the winter, because that's the coldest time. That's the most bearable time to be out in Death Valley. I remember the first Star Wars was filmed in Death Valley, or at least a part of it was. And they had to film in January because it was the coldest time, and it was still 70 degrees, which is great temperature, by the way. I love it, 70 degrees. One of the guys discovers that he lost his canteen along the way of walking, and so we got the greedy guy. He has all the water, and he has 1 canteen, and we're in soaking hot desert. Soaking hot? There's no water in the desert. Burning hot heat. And this guy has a bartering system. I think they walk for like a couple of days. The first day, 1 drink equals 1 gold bar. And so the guy just keeps giving him the gold bars for 1 drink, and then 2 gold bars for 1 drink. And you know what he does? Freaking hit the greedy guy and kill him. And so now that guy is alone. And of course, he's here to drink the water that was left. And that's not a lot of water. It was like maybe less than a quarter of a canteen left. And it was a canteen, 1 tiny puny canteen. It's not even like a liter. It's not at all. It's almost no water. In that hot of heat, oof, I wouldn't want to be that guy. I generally try to stay out of the heat. If it's 90 to 100 degrees. Humid heat, I try to stay out of it if it's like 85 or higher, because wow, that's hot. But dry heat at 100 is fine. 130 dry heat, geez, that's an oven. That's the temperature in which you keep food warm at. 130 degrees, oof. So anyway, that guy is dying clearly because he's been in the heat for way too long. And then he encounters what seems to be a car. This couple finds him, and he's like, hey, can you give me a bride? I'll give you some gold. And then he just dies. This is so cool. All 4 of them have died. And this couple, they seem to be in like their 20s or 30s. This couple is driving this really cool, fancy car. And they're like, oh, they were trying to give us gold. Don't they know that gold's worthless? They can just mass produce gold now. I'm like, oh my goodness. they valued the wrong things, because of course they would. They stole $1 million worth of gold. They're so focused on the gold. They're not focused on staying alive in order to use the gold. They should have, I don't know, done 50 years. Why 100 years? You're good from the cops. What's the statute of limitations? You should have done that plus like a couple of days. Why didn't you do that? You should have been able to do that in order to spend the gold. I'm like, it's really funny. They get what they deserve, which is nothing. And I think this episode's ultimate lesson is to don't steal gold and then sleep for 100 years, because the gold's gonna be worthless. You don't know what the value of things are going to be like in 100 years. You don't know what people are going to value, and I will say this is 100% true. Rod Serling didn't know that telephones were going to exist, and now crypto exists. He didn't know that that was going to be a whole concept. I like the brightness of the desert. It really represents the heat. Very, very hot. No shade. A little bit of shadow, but only like on their face, and it's harsh shadow because it's the sunlight. You got harsh shadows. But overall, this is a very, very bright. They're very bright. Very, very bright environment. I like this episode of The Twilight Zone. Man, I had a lot to say about this one. That's because I like it so much. I gotta give this one, it's a solid 8.5 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another on the platform and likes that $20 donut to patreon.com/ASEPresents for 1 movie review per 1 month. Go to this link tree to support the daily grindiness of all them daily movie reviews, so you can go here. And until next time, mint salad saw. I'll see you later, my salad croutons, bacon bits. Adios.